This place is about equality and acceptance and love. All the things they taught me in my church growing up, but never practiced. Throughout human history, simple, honest generosity has been celebrated and acknowledged as one of the most important and meaningful human characteristics. It's one of our core Unitarian Universalist values for a reason. There cannot be justice or equity without it, and it's one of the ways we show love. This has been told in story over and over again through the world's religions. Once there was a poor Brahmin living in town. One day, while begging for alms, he came upon a wealthy merchant giving a large donation to publicly gain praise. The Brahmin had only a single handful of rice left, the last food he had, but seeing a hungry child nearby, he offered that handful of rice to the child and its mother, rather than keep it for himself. A story from the Talmud tells of a great temple where many people came to give their offerings. Among them was a very rich merchant who came to the temple with a large entourage and trumpets blowing to herald his arrival. And he placed an incredible sum of money in the offering at the temple, and people cheered and shouted his name, and the temple priests lavished blessings aloud upon him. Also among the people at this temple was a widow with 2 small children, and she scraped by mending clothes for the richer households in town, and barely made enough to feed her children. And she quietly followed the rich merchant and placed her very last coin into the offering. No one at the temple noticed, but the angels in heaven saw and wrote her name in the book of life and sang her praises before God. In the New Testament, the Christian scriptures, Jesus tells that story, and it's known as the widow's mite in the Christian tradition. And the prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "The one who gives from his surplus is like the wealthy person who gives, but the one who gives from his need is the one who is truly generous." Many years ago now, I experienced the generosity described in these religious parables in real life, in real time, in the Unitarian Universalist congregation I was serving in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Among the members of this congregation were business executives, bankers, real estate developers, some folks with some real income and some real assets. But there were also a lot of people in this congregation without much in the way of financial resources. People came to this congregation from a lot of the more working class neighborhoods of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And the congregation had some very generous donors, but the most generous donor of all was not one of the bankers or real estate developers. The most generous donor we had in that congregation was a massage therapist. She worked at a spa and earned a percentage plus tips of every massage she gave. And every Sunday, she put a check for 10% of what she made that week in our collection plate. Some weeks it was more. Some weeks it was less. Eventually, I asked her if she could really afford to do what she was doing on Sunday, because I knew she was not doing well. And she said, "I just assumed that was what everyone else was doing." Because that's how she was raised in her Christian church in West Texas, that everybody put in 10% of their income. And besides, she said, This place is something I believe in. Before I found Unitarian Universalism, all I had from my church growing up was bigotry and looking down on anyone who didn't agree with our version of Christianity. This place is about equality and acceptance and love. All the things they taught me in my church growing up, but never practiced. You know, the United States was rated the most generous country in the world by the Charity Aid Foundation every year from 2009 to 2018. Measured in terms of percentage of the population that helped strangers, donated to charitable organizations, and volunteered their time. And the United States fell to third place on this list in 2022, and fifth place in 2023, and sixth place in 2024, and it's expected we have dropped further last year. And I know all I've got is correlation and not causation, but I can't help but notice this decline begins 2 years into Trump's period as president and just keeps going downhill. And I wonder if generosity in our country in some places has just been replaced as a core value among some people by greed. That caring for others has been replaced by an attitude that's been made okay by our government to not care about others. And I'm really glad that as Unitarian Universalists, we have adopted generosity as one of our core values, because I don't see that decline happening with us. In fact, I see the reverse. I see as things get more difficult, Unitarian Universalists getting more and more generous, not only with their money, but with their time and with their energy. I think it's very true that money is one of those things that shows where your heart is, whether you have a lot of it or a little of it. It shows where your moral center is, what you do with the money you have. Follow where people spend their time and their money, and you'll learn a lot about what they truly value and who they really are. Just follow the money. The phrase "follow the money" was popularized by All the President's Men, the movie based on the book by Bernstein and Woodward about the Watergate scandal. And in that movie, the phrase is spoken by Deep Throat, the informant that tells Bernstein and Woodward what he knows about what's going on with the administration. And follow the money meant that tracing the financial connections would reveal the truth behind the Watergate scandal. And you know, the phrase "follow the money" isn't anywhere in their book. What's in the book is on page 248. The key was the secret campaign cash, and it could all be traced. Every indication pointed toward a massive Haldeman undercover operation, which the Watergate break-in and the dirty tricks of the 72 primary were only little parts. The screenwriters concise that down to "follow the money," which is great. And for the last 50 years, "follow the money" has been a clarion call to political corruption. The Keating Five, follow the money. Iran-Contra, follow the money. Jack Abramoff, follow the money. Enron, follow the money. Bernie Madoff, follow the money. Trump campaign hush money, follow the money. Trump and Russia, follow the money. You see where this is going. Following the money leads to the corruption. But following the money also, by the way, leads to discovering mission and purpose and values. It's putting your money where your mouth is. It's understanding that where you invest your money, you invest your life, you invest your love, you invest your deepest self. Following the money can lead to catching the criminals. But following the money can also lead to the purpose and value that drives people of integrity and ethics. If you follow the money, you learn all the secrets about what people value, what they prioritize, and what's ultimately important to them. How many of you went to No Kings rally yesterday? I'm going to guess that by percentage of adherents, Unitarian Universalism was probably the most represented religion at all these rallies around the country. Now, I have a bias in that area, but I still think it could most likely be true. I supported the No Kings yesterday because I believe in treating every person with dignity and respect. I believe that all human relationships should be based on freely given mutual consent and respect and not on coercion and power. I attended No Kings because this is at the core of what I value. And because of this, I stood with hundreds of people on the sidewalk outside Pancho's Tacos at the corner of White and Moss Street in Danbury yesterday, in one of our many stops as we walked through town. And I listened to Juan Fonseca Tapia. You know Juan, he's been here. He's one of the leaders of Danbury Unites for Immigrants. I listened to Juan point out to us that the families we just walked by were crying because they knew they weren't alone. Because this river of people had gone by their house, showing them how much they were really supported. And then Juan told us how just yesterday, which would have been Saturday now, a block from where we were, right down the sidewalk from Pancho's Tacos, 7 ICE vehicles stood up, pulled up, and took away one person. And Juan said, you know, the hardest thing about this is having to tell a child your parent is gone. And he made a direct appeal to the faith community. He said, we need more help. If you are a person of faith, I need you to go to your pastor, I need you to go to your community and tell them, we need more help. As far as I could tell, I wore one of these. I was the only religious leader I saw all day. If anybody else was in Danbury, if you saw anybody else, let me know. Tuesday is the Transgender Day of Visibility. I will be supporting actions going on Tuesday. And I recently had coffee and about a 2-hour conversation with someone from the congregation out in Meriden. And they told me how much the congregation has helped them believe there is a life for them beyond the various difficulties they've faced with all the stuff they had in their family growing up and being a trans person in this country at this time. And their whole journey, they said, was nice to have it all accepted at the Unitarian Universalist Church. And I do my best to be a trans and LGBTQIA ally because, once again, all relationships among people should be based on love and mutual respect and not coercion and power. And because there's no such thing as a lesser person. And because it's my job to create a more just and equitable society. This week, I accepted an invitation to offer the invocation, the opening prayer, at the legislative lobbying breakfast of the Interreligious Eco-Justice Network on April 22nd at the State House in Hartford. And I accepted because it's my job as a human being to create a more just and equitable society. And a just and equitable society takes care of the planet we all live on. Because good things don't just happen. People have to work to make sure they happen. And part of what we work to make sure happens is respect for everyone's human dignity and human rights. And to have a safe and healthy planet environment in which to live. A bunch of you said you went to No Kings rally yesterday. So do a little thought experiment. In your mind, give yourself a sheet of paper. At the top, write No Kings. Go ahead and take a second and list for yourself why you went to No Kings or why you supported it if you didn't go. Go ahead. Give yourself another column. At the top, put LGBTQIA+. And go ahead and list for yourself all the reasons why you support LGBTQIA community, consider yourself an ally, or otherwise work for justice in that area. Why do you do that? Write yourself a list. Third column, put a line at the top. Save the planet. And all of you who consider yourself at some level to be an environmentalist, list for yourself all the reasons you are an environmentalist and work to save the planet and make it a cleaner, healthier place. Got that list? Can you visualize it in front of you? All right, now here's the last part. List for yourself on the other side of that paper why you are a Unitarian Universalist. Are you copying everything from the other side of the paper? Why do you attend this congregation? Notice how all the things, all the reasons, all the values that cause us to show up for No Kings, to support the LGBTQ community, all the reasons we care for the environment are all found in that list of core values of why we are Unitarian Universalists: justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, generosity, love. We make these values real in the world by investing in them. We put our money where our mouth is, where our heart is, where our love is. We put our money where love needs an amplified voice and helping hands. We put our money where justice is being sought. We put our money where equity is always the goal. We put our money where transformation for the good happens. We put our money where pluralism and diversity are valued and practiced and cherished. We put our money into interdependent community, and we put our money there generously. We invest generously in those values. And if we follow our money here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury, we find that we invest it in resources that help those core values become real in the world. Over the last 5 years, our congregation has invested in children and families. We've invested in doing more help for our neighbors and more deeply living out our commitments. We're home to 2 worshiping communities. This building provides space for training our neighbors to help protect each other from ICE. We believe in the power to transform lives through love. Everything we do here is done with love at the center in the service of love, making love real in the world. Love, they say, is what justice looks like in action. We inspire people to develop a personal spirituality and make their life's journey meaningful. We support families and children with a kind, compassionate, positive, value-centered, safe place to learn and grow. We feed our hungry neighbors. We help our neighbors who have been harmed and hounded by ICE. We welcome and include everyone who shows up at our door into this community. We do so in a building and in spaces we put effort into making sure we do as little harm as possible to our environment. And we do these things through Sunday morning programming, serving at Dorothy Day, working with Danbury Unites for Immigrants, showing up at No Kings, supporting the UU Connecticut Justice Ministry, housing a Hindu faith community, providing a home for the performing arts. We invest in these things in many ways, through an auction, through crowdfunding, and through our annual pledge drive, to which you've been asked to contribute. I ask you to continue to make this investment. We make this investment. We do this because this is who we are. We are Unitarian Universalists, and love is what we do. And generosity is what we do. And if you don't believe it, just follow our money. It'll show you who we are.
Check out my website and blog at tonylorenzen.com for even more resources that will open your mind, touch your heart, and inspire your spirit.